We're talking to Rod TUAZON, who is an expert broker, realtor, and especially concentrating on Ventura County. Now, tell us, Rod, um, people buy homes, but sometimes they don't really know what to buy. They get attracted to single-family homes because they say there's more equity, you build more equity versus a townhome or condo. Give us your opinion.
Well, again, I keep going back to it depends on the needs of the specific individual. Because a lot of people just don't want to do the upkeep of the home and just choose to buy a condo or a townhome where they leave all the maintenance to the association. However, there are pitfalls in going to HOAs if you don't want anyone telling you what to do on how you're going to improve your house. Then it's probably not a good idea to get a condo or a townhome because everything is regulated by the homeowners association.
Mm-hmm.
There are advantages and disadvantages. If I would be a single person, for example, if I would be a single person that basically would just work 10, 12 hours a day, perhaps a condo or a townhome is probably good for me. However, if I would be someone that's raising three small children, I probably would opt in getting a single family home because obviously we need the yard and we need to be able to have enough space for the children to grow up.
Mm-hmm. But what about the HOA? Isn't that an increasing rate usually?
Yes, there's an HOA fee, which average depending on where you are, and depending on how nice the condominium are, that could be very expensive. And for those people who are trying to buy a condominium or a townhome, it's very important for them to review the articles. They call it the CC&Rs and the financial statements of and the integrity of the HOA to make sure that they have enough reserves in their funds to be able to sustain keeping the HOA dues pretty much the same all throughout, several years. If there's not enough reserve in the system, there is a possibility that the HOA dues could go up because there's not going to be enough money to be able to afford getting all the residents paying the same dues. For example, if there is a litigation, a visitor is walking the walkway and got injured, he or she could sue the association, and that could prove detrimental to the association because they need to be able to defend itself to the litigation. And for example, if that person won, there's going to be an award or a judgment, and once there's a judgment, they're going to get it from the reserves.
Wow, that's
on
tough.
top of the insurance. So, for example, if they have their own insurance, a liability insurance, if there's not enough liability insurance to pay for the judgment, they're going to get the money from the reserves of the association. And once the reserves of the association is exhausted, they need to be able to charge that back individually to the homeowners.
And is that something that a potential buyer would know all the facts of this lawsuit before he or she buys the condo?
No, they would be able to know if there's an existing one, but the caveat is, for any kind of future lawsuits or any kind of future maintenance, major maintenance such as replacing the roof, which could be very costly, they don't know that. But again, as far as maintenance, it's important to understand and review the CC&Rs because it would give you the life of any, like for example, the roof. When was the last time it was replaced? So it gives you a replacement value in those property, or like the roofing, on how many more years they need to wait in order to replace them. So for example, if you're buying a condo and the age of the roof is just 2 years old, that means they're going to replace the roof in 2 years. And if there's not enough reserves in the the HOA, most likely they're going to charge that back to the homeowners.
Mm-hmm. So that means it's really better to buy something that's a new construction, so they would have more updated facilities. Is that correct?
Yes, new construction is definitely less problem in maintenance. However, for new construction, it's more expensive because you have to improve the property. They don't usually provide the landscaping. They usually don't provide the window coverings. They don't provide anything much just besides the structure of the house or whatever options that were added in to the purchase price. So you still have to improve your property. It's a little more expensive, but it's, the maintenance is going to be less.
You mentioned
But
about the roof. Oh, sorry.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you mentioned about the roof, which is a great concern. What other things should a potential buyer look into in terms of the
Plumbing,
CCNR? Yeah, when buying.
plumbing, the age of the wiring. Those are the ones that are really very costly. And usually the maintenance of the upkeep of the grounds as well, if they need to do something. Walkways that are probably uprooted by mature trees, they need to replace those. Those are all expenses. Those are all recurring expenses that the association has to keep maintaining.
I have a question precisely for that. I know one of the listeners emailed me a question with regards to her concern. She was looking into a condo building and said that it shows a lot of promise because it seems that there were a lot of people that were buying from that building and renting it out. However, there's just a lot of traffic. In other words, like a lot of people buy and then they sell it. Is that a good sign when a building is too popular, meaning to say everybody seems to be buying there and selling it? What's the reason behind that?
My policy is if it's too popular, there's too many people going to buy it, I'm staying away from it. And I do inversely, where if nobody's looking at it, that's the time that I look at that property. Because number one, it eliminates the competition, and number two, it would I probably would be able to buy the property lower because I don't have a competition and I don't have any other people who's willing to buy the property.
However,
and
yes.
One thing that you need to look into the HOA too is if there's more renters than buyers than owners are staying in their homes. So if the condo complex have more than renters, most likely that would limit your ability to be able to get financing, because unless you are paying cash or you're putting significant down payment. But if you're using any kind of government funded loan like VA or FHA, most likely they would limit the amount of renters there are in the development. For example, they could limit, we cannot have more than 35% renters. So if there's 36% renters, then you would not be able to use those financing. So I think for any HOA, if you're buying it to live there, I would buy a complex or a condominium complex that are mostly owner-occupied. If you're buying it as an investment, it doesn't really matter because you're going to rent it anyway, whether it's mostly owner-occupied or renter-occupied.
I see. So I was just going to ask you that. A lot of people, they buy, condominiums because they're thinking of future investment, but live in it in the meantime. And is there a rule as to when you can rent out your condo? How soon you can rent it out?
Your condo anytime you want to.
Oh, I see.
But there is a rule when you actually sell your condo. There's a 2 out of 5 year rule where you have to occupy the property 2 years out of 5 years in order to not pay any capital gains tax. Say for example, you bought a condo now, and then you lived there for 2 years, but then you moved out and didn't live there for 3 years. If you sell the condo, the IRS will probably go back to you and say, well, you didn't live 5 years in there, but you lived 2 years, so you need to pay part of the capital gains tax. That's the idea of when once you rent it, it becomes your investment property, it becomes your business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then once it becomes your business, then you're subjected to capital gains tax when you sell it if you don't do a 1031 exchange. A 1031 exchange is a life exchange. For example, you're selling a condo and buying another condo, and you're still using it as investment. Then you can roll over your capital gains to the other condo.